Yeah, Field of View is one of those shows that I felt I had to do for myself. You know, you feel like we teach a lot of production skills and techniques. And a lot of it is, you know, where to set this light precisely and how to dial in this particular setting on a camera, or you know, what buttons to click in your NLE's interface to get a certain look or create an effect. And I really felt personally that what was missing from a lot of this is, you know, that stuff is all very calculated and scientific, and you know, it's like a formula for making video. And with Field of View, what I really wanted to do is express that there's more to making video than knowing what button to push. You know, it's not about that, and you can teach anybody to push the right button, but there's something that's tangibly different about making the video that you see from someone who thinks like a cinematographer, who edits like a filmmaker. Why is that? Is it the camera? No. What is it then? And it's really the way he thinks. So how do you teach people to think a certain way? I don't know that you do. But what I felt I needed to do was point out some of these things. You know, point out that there is a difference in the way you think, and then challenge people to think differently as they go about their work. And I hope that Field of View has accomplished that, you know, to kind of spur thinking. What kind of B-roll is this? So this is our guy, right? Yep, this is our editor. Perry and I worked pretty closely on Field of View throughout the whole season. And so we've worked together a long time. We know each other well. And Perry right away kind of caught what I was trying to do with this show. He knows how I think, and so as I shared these ideas with him, he would say, you know what, I see something that works for that. And I think Perry's vision for not only what I was trying to say, but for the way that it should be done was a huge part of the look of Field of View. It can be hard to get good looking shots in bad looking spots.
Yeah, it was decided early on to try to give Field of View a cinematic look. So of course we incorporated the dolly whenever we could, and I just approached the lighting like you would if you were going to try to shoot a movie. You know, just when he's in an environment and say there's light coming in through a window, I just want to simulate that light on our subject.
And hold it out a little farther from the light. I'm disappointed because
it's paying attention to those details and trying to achieve a look and feel with your lighting, I think, is what is, well, it's the goal for me anytime that I shoot, but it also worked for Field of View because we were, you know, giving each one of these episodes a character in a sense by the way that we lit it. And you do that, I think, with a cinematic approach.
Right from the start, we knew there were going to be a couple aspects that made Field of View what it was. Part of that certainly was what I was saying, but the other part of that was to actually show, you know, what we were doing. And sometimes that was, you know, showing a camera person behind the scenes, kind of dramatizing what we're talking about. Other times it was to illustrate in a creative way, you know, the concept. I drew the comparison of, you know, making videos a bit like building a house. You know, just because I have the tools doesn't mean I have the skills. And so we thought, well, what better way to illustrate that than show, you know, a hammer pounding a nail and show a saw running, not to literally illustrate these things, but to kind of figuratively paint that picture. And by shooting that and playing it back in slow motion and with dramatic lighting, it added an emotion. You know, lighting is such a powerful tool in slow motion to kind of just make you feel things. A lot of what we wanted to do with Field of View, what I wanted to do was have it be a show that made you think, but that also made you feel what the message was. And a huge part of that was giving you something to see that was not directly related to what I was talking about, but that drove that point home, and by seeing it in a way that really made you feel the message.
The B-roll is where I just kind of had the creative freedom to go do what I wanted. I just told Chuck, I said, give me your analogies, give me your concepts, and let me go run with something. And one of my favorite shots was when we took our animator, Brent Milby, and we made him look like a coach. And we set up a film projector, and we had something projecting up on a wall, and he's watching, and we're making the slow dolly behind him. And we shot it at 60 frames per second, and you just slowly see the projector reels spinning and light coming off of there. Oh man, that was probably one of the funnest one. And the setup really was very minimal. I think it took me maybe half an hour to 40 minutes to set the whole thing up. What I really tried to do was limit myself to what I would show. So I would pick little areas within the studio and just light for that area. So I did a lot of close-ups, did a lot of real moody type light using hard lights so that things just fall off the shadow really quick. And it was, for me, it was a lot of creative freedom, and it was a lot of, I don't know, just a lot of fun telling those stories through this imagery.
So we wanted to come up with a look that was more than just straight out video, and almost a little bit of a film look to it in terms of the colors and the texture. But we also wanted to kind of take it out of the realm of just the rectangular box frame of video. So kind of the color and the grain, that kind of came from the influence of film. And where we came up with the vignette was, we were looking at it when we were putting together the first episode, and Chuck said, you know, we need something with the edge of this frame. We need to make it a little bit different. And the first thing that hit me was cutting on a moviola. Some of the first stuff I ever cut together was film, 16 millimeter on an old moviola. You know, this old beat up one I was working on kind of had this soft focus on the edges. I remember what that looked like and how fun that was to cut on, and just how it had this look that was really raw. And so we just made this, you know, little soft edge vignette. Chuck said, I love it. Let's go with that.
For this particular series, for the kind of a message, the theoretical, the conceptual, emotional subject matter that we were talking about, it needed an edit pace that matched that. And that right there is part of the message of Field of View. It's, you know, think about the content and then package and present that message in a way that suits that message the best. And so with Field of View, a lot of that was the way it was lit. It was the way that it was shot. It was the way that I wrote and delivered it. And a lot of it was the way that we edited that show. We needed to slow it down. Sometimes the production would be better if we left some stuff out.
We wanted to make the pace of it almost unsettling. You know, a little bit where it was contemplative in style, where you'd be watching it and thinking, but you know, where there were these longer pauses where it kind of became unsettling. You know, made if you were just a little bit offset of what they were used to of what DJTV was.
And there were times, especially the first couple episodes, where people didn't get that. You know, people would say, you know, just give me the main message, just get to the point. And the point at that time was, no. The point was, we're not going to get right to the point. And so that was very purposeful and deliberate, you know, to choose to, in some cases, draw things out a little longer than was comfortable. In some cases, to slow things down or to repeat a point. We purposely chose our edit pace and our shot selection and the style of that show to suit the message. What I really want the viewers to get out of Field of View is that making video is more of an art than a science. It's something that has to come, and when you talk to artists, there's something different about an artist than a scientist. One is very clean and precise, and another is very much driven by emotion and passion. And I think there's a difference when you watch a production that's clinical in approach and one that's artistic in approach. And I just want to help steer a lot of the clinically minded producers towards artistry, because I believe that it makes a huge difference in what you see on the screen.